Ever imagine yourself just hopping on a rocket like it's an airplane?
Well, SpaceX.
SpaceX is making that future feel surprisingly close with their Starship program.
Yeah.
Today, we're taking you on a deep dive into this groundbreaking technology, their ambitious plans, and what it all could mean for the future of space exploration and, more importantly, for you.
What's really fascinating about SpaceX is how they're shaking up the traditional aerospace industry.
Yeah.
It's not about building slightly better rockets. They're completely changing how we think about space travel and its possibilities.
It's not every day a single company causes such a massive shift. We've got some incredible insights to unpack today from a SpaceX engineer who's on the front lines of these developments.
What's interesting is this goes way beyond just launching bigger and better rockets. Their work is pushing boundaries in so many fields: materials, engine design, reusable tech, and these innovations could completely change industries here on Earth, not just in space.
Okay, so let's break down this SpaceX revolution for our listener. Most people know them for those reusable Falcon 9 rockets, which totally changed the game compared to the old single-use rockets, making spaceflight cheaper. But the real star of the show, the thing that makes everything else possible, is their Raptor engine.
The Raptor engine is an incredible feat of engineering. It's powerful, efficient, and runs on methane, which, as we'll get into later, has some really interesting implications for the future of space travel, especially when we talk about going to Mars.
And that's where Starship comes in. This isn't just an upgrade on the Falcon, it's a whole new ballgame designed for those long trips to other planets, with Mars being the first destination on their list.
The sheer scale of what SpaceX is trying to do with Starship is pretty mind-boggling. It's not just one rocket, it's the two-part system. Think of it this way. You've got the SuperHeavyBooster, a massive rocket engine that's basically there to lift the Starship spacecraft off the ground. Then, the Starship itself is designed to carry people and cargo on those long journeys to Mars and beyond.
And we can't talk about Starship without mentioning that incredible test flight they just pulled off on October 13th, 2024. This wasn't just a successful launch, they really outdid themselves. Not only did Starship ace all of its flight objectives, but they also managed to catch that massive super heavy booster in midair using their Mechazilla tower.
That catch is a game changer because it means they can reuse the booster much faster.
Wow.
Imagine the logistical nightmare and expense of building brand new rockets for every single mission. This system SpaceX is perfecting could make launching missions almost as routine as air travel.
It's like comparing a horse and buggy to a bullet train. This is where it gets really interesting for you. SpaceX's innovations have huge implications for all of us, even if we never actually set foot on a spaceship.
Absolutely. Their work is pushing the limits of technology in so many ways. We're talking about breakthroughs in materials, engine design, and reusability that could revolutionize industries right here on Earth.
A great example is their Starlink project, which is already beaming high-speed internet to some of the most remote places on the planet. It's helping to close the digital divide and connect people in ways we could have only dreamed of a few years ago.
Think about what that means. A remote village in, say, the Amazon rainforest, which previously had no access to the outside world, could suddenly have educational resources, telehealth, and countless other opportunities thanks to this technology.
And this brings up a question that sounds like something out of science fiction, but it's becoming more relevant every day. With all the challenges facing our planet, could establishing a base on Mars be less about exploring a new world and more about making sure humanity has a backup plan?
It's a crucial question. Climate change, resource depletion, these are serious issues, and having a backup plan for humanity is starting to feel less like a sci-fi plot and more like a necessity. SpaceX seems to be betting on it, and their ambitions go way beyond just Mars. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's delve a little deeper into what makes their recent achievements so revolutionary. One of the most groundbreaking aspects of what SpaceX is doing is their focus on reusable rockets.
Yeah.
Remember when rockets were basically expensive fireworks?
Right.
One use and they were gone? SpaceX decided to change all that.
It always seemed crazy to me that we were just throwing away these incredibly complex machines after a single launch.
Yeah.
Like, what if we treated airplanes that way? Imagine the cost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was incredibly wasteful, both from a financial standpoint and in terms of the resources needed to build them. SpaceX realized that if we wanted to make space travel more sustainable and affordable, reusability was the key.
And they proved it could be done with the Falcon 9. I remember watching that first landing of the booster. It was like something out of a movie. And now those landings are almost routine for them. It's incredible how quickly they went from experimental landings to making booster recovery a regular part of their missions.
It really speaks to their approach to engineering, constantly iterating, learning from both their successes and, crucially, their failures.
Right.
They pushed the limits, refined their methods, and ultimately achieved a level of reliability that's changed the entire industry.
And speaking of reliability, the Falcon 9 has really become their workhorse, right? Launching satellites, sending supplies to the International Space Station. It seems like they use it for everything.
It's true.
Yeah.
The Falcon 9 has proven itself incredibly versatile and reliable, but what's often overlooked is that it's been a testing ground for the technologies and innovations that are now essential to the Starship program, like the Raptor engines we were talking about earlier.
Yes, the Raptor engines. You mentioned they run on methane.
Yeah.
What makes that a better fuel source for these new rockets?
Well, for starters, methane is abundant.
Okay.
And here's the really interesting part. It can be found on Mars. That has huge implications for long-term missions and the possibility of one day establishing a self-sustaining human presence on another planet.
Hold on. Instead of hauling all their fuel from Earth, they could theoretically manufacture it on Mars.
Yeah.
That changes everything.
Exactly. It's that kind of forward thinking that sets SpaceX apart.
Wow.
They're not just focused on getting to Mars, they're thinking about how to live there.
It all feeds into that big dream of becoming a multi-planetary species.
Right.
But let's get back to the Raptor engine for a second. You said it's more efficient.
Yeah.
But how does it actually work?
Well, without getting too technical, the Raptor uses a full flow staged combustion cycle. What that means is it's incredibly efficient at burning fuel and generating thrust.
Right.
Traditional rocket engines can be pretty wasteful,
Right.
but the Raptor squeezes every bit of energy out of its fuel.
So more power, less fuel.
Exactly.
Makes sense for those long trips to Mars. And then there's Starship itself. You mentioned earlier it's not just one rocket, but a two-part system.
Right.
Can you explain that a bit more?
Of course. You have the Starship spacecraft itself, which is what will actually carry the crew and cargo on those long-duration missions. But to get Starship off the ground, you need the SuperHeavyBooster. That's the massive first-stage rocket we saw in the recent test flight.
The one they managed to catch with the Mechazilla tower. I still can't get over that.
It's a remarkable feat of engineering, and it's key to their plan for rapid reusability. Imagine if, instead of spending months or even years refurbishing a rocket after each use, you could just catch the booster and prep it for another launch in a matter of days or even hours.
That would be revolutionary. It would make space travel so much more efficient and affordable. It would be like, it would be like the jump from horse-drawn carriages to high-speed rail all over again.
You're getting the idea. It would fundamentally change the economics of space travel, making it more akin to commercial air travel in terms of frequency and affordability. And that's the ultimate goal, isn't it? To make space accessible to more people and open up a new frontier for humanity.
It's an incredible goal.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, not everyone listening is going to be an astronaut or a billionaire with their sights set on Mars. So why should the average person care about any of this?
Right.
It all seems so, well, out there.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
It's easy to see these advancements as interesting, but not necessarily relevant to our everyday lives. But the reality is, SpaceX's work has implications that extend far beyond the realm of rockets and space exploration. Their innovations have the potential to revolutionize life here on Earth in ways we're just beginning to understand.
You know, it's easy to get caught up in the technology and forget about the bigger picture. But what SpaceX is doing is about more than just building rockets. It's about pushing the boundaries of human ingenuity and reminding us what's possible when we dare to dream big.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that SpaceX isn't operating in a vacuum. They're a major player in a global resurgence of interest in space exploration. Think about it. For decades, space exploration felt stuck in a rut. But now we're seeing a renewed sense of excitement and ambition. And it's not just coming from governments.
Right. It's not just about the US and Russia anymore. The race to the moon is back on. But this time, it's a global endeavor with countries and private companies from all over the world joining the party.
Exactly. And SpaceX is right there in the thick of it.
Yeah.
In fact, they snagged a pretty major contract with NASA to develop the lunar lander for the Artemis missions, the program that aims to put humans back on the moon and establish a sustainable presence there.
And they're going to use a modified version of Starship for that, right?
Yeah.
That's huge.
It is.
Yeah.
It shows just how far SpaceX has come and the level of trust they've earned within the aerospace community. But their ambitions don't stop at the moon. They're already looking beyond, exploring the potential of mining asteroids for resources.
Okay, that does sound a little like something out of science fiction, but it makes sense. If we're talking about establishing a permanent base on Mars, we're going to need resources, and hauling everything from Earth just isn't feasible in the long run.
Exactly. And think about the possibilities. Asteroids are like flying treasure chests, full of valuable minerals and resources that could be used to build and sustain a Martian colony. It's a bold vision, but that's what SpaceX does best.
And it's not just about Mars. You mentioned earlier that they're also looking at the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. Those are some pretty ambitious targets.
They are. But think about the scientific potential. Europa, with its subsurface oceans, and Titan, with its dense atmosphere, these moons might hold clues to the origins of life itself. And SpaceX has made it clear that they see these celestial bodies as the next logical step in our exploration of the solar system.
It's mind-blowing to think about where we might be headed in the next few decades. It feels like we're on the verge of a new era of human exploration, an era where the boundaries of what's possible are constantly being redefined, and SpaceX is leading the charge.
It's an incredibly exciting time to be following space exploration, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And it begs the question, what role will you play in this unfolding story?
That's a great question to leave our listener with. Will you be one of the first to set foot on Mars? Will you be developing the technologies that make it all possible? Or will you be cheering from the sidelines, inspired by the audacity of it all?
Whatever path you choose, one thing is certain. The future of space exploration is brimming with possibilities, and SpaceX is rewriting the rules of what we once thought was impossible. They're showing us that the only limit is our imagination.
And on that note, we're wrapping up this deep dive into the world of SpaceX and their incredible Starship program. We've covered a lot of ground today, from reusable rockets and methane-powered engines to the audacious goal of making humanity a multiplanetary species.
We've explored how SpaceX's relentless pursuit of innovation is not only transforming space exploration, but also having a profound impact on life here on Earth, from bridging the digital divide to inspiring a new generation of dreamers and doers.
If you're as excited about the future of space exploration as we are, be sure to check out our show notes for links to learn more about SpaceX, the Starship program, and the incredible people who are making it all happen.
And until next time, keep looking up at the stars and never stop asking, what if?